This isn't like, this is incredible how horrible this is. I mean, what year is this car? Like a 2017 Altima? Probably a combination of brush washing and
Towel wiping and washing. Yeah.
And car wash, whatever you call it, automatic car wash.
Yeah, these straight lines are from the automatic.
Yeah.
Lots of them, lots and lots. Matt, this is the scenario we were talking about, where layers and layers of defects, where one of the traditional and normal approaches would be to just hammer this with a compound, a wool pad, or aggressive tool movement, whatever, but some kind of a aggressive approach. So what we're going to show is an alternative to that, which will be using this foam disc technology. So it is sandpaper, but it's a completely different approach than regular sandpaper.
So this is what, maybe 1/8 inch thick, roughly 1/4 inch thick, and then this is what, this is a 3000 grit?
3000 grit.
It's funny, when you feel these things, it almost feels like, it doesn't even feel like it doesn't feel like traditional sandpaper. It almost feels like a rough sweater, you know?
Yeah, it is very, very different technology. And this approach will remove defects like that without compound, wool pad, and all that. And then we also talked about the film disc technology, which this is more like traditional approach. Very, very thin, like sandpaper.
1500 grit.
And this is a 1500 grit. And this is a dry sanding product. You can tell by there's a sterate pattern on there, and that is a giveaway of a dry sanding product. It's like a dry lubricant on the sandpaper.
That releases as you go.
So, you know, we'll do, on one spot on this car, we'll do a 2-step scenario, which will show removing these defects, but also leveling texture. So we'll show that, this 2-step scenario, 1, 2.
This is not dry?
This is wet. Okay. Actually, we call it damp. It's not a flood of water, it's a spray of water. Yeah. So we'll do the 2-step on one side. On this side, we'll do the 1-step, where we are going after the defects, but leaving the texture. First, we want to clean the surface and remove dust and debris, and also strip it of any potential waxes or polish residues that might be on the paint. And in this case, I could use an IPA solution, or
diluted, right?
Yeah, diluted down in a spray bottle. Or I can use this product, which is a G-Technique panel wipe. I'll put that in.
So you'd have, I mean,
but this is a
CarPro has a version.
Yeah, there's lots of different.
Gion has a version, right? Same, all the
but
prep type.
Some kind of a chemistry that's intended to
remove oils and things,
So we're going to do that. And this is always the first step, because if you tried to sand on top of a surface that has waxes or sealants or something on it, it will fight what you're trying to do with the sandpaper. So it'll cause you more work. And you'll load up your sanding disc.
So that first disc you will throw away in one pass.
And just for fun, I'm going to hit it again. And now, I think there might have been a wax on there, because now I actually see more scratches.
Yeah, I do too. Incredible.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll show the 2-step and then a 1-step on that side. So we have an assortment of orbits. So these are our air tools. These are air sanders. 3mm, 6mm, 9mm. On this first step with the film disc, I'm going to be in the 3 or 6 range. In keeping with using the least aggressive method first, we'll take this 3mm and we'll see how that works. We'll put our foam interface pad on there.
All the holes are for cooling?
Well, the holes are actually designed for a dust extraction system.
Ah, okay, yeah. Okay.
So they're going to vacuum dust as you sand. But
Wouldn't these little holes create issues? Like grabbing issues? I mean,
well,
I guess not.
In theory, the film disc is thick enough that the hooks from the vacuum or the interface shouldn't protrude through. But if you push down hard enough, you will make contact with those hooks. So the idea is don't push down. Let the paper do the work. So I'm just going to do a little spot here. Let me show you something real quick before I keep going.
So that was 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was literally 2 passes. So what I want to show you here is right here, you see an area that looks different than this.
Yeah.
This is your texture almost completely leveled right here.
Wow, that quickly.
Yeah, very fast.
I can still see a few dimples, but considerably different than out here.
And what those dimples are, those are valleys. So we've taken the peaks off. In 2 passes, they're gone. These are peaks and valleys. This is what's called partial texture leveling. So if the objective was complete texture leveling, we have not done it here, but we have come close here. So I just wanted to show you that before I kept going. There's a little bit of load, but not so much. So as you can see, just those extra couple of passes, texture leveled. This area around here is where you have partial.
Absolutely no heat.
Yeah, it's a non-heat approach.
To get that with a block would have taken me 20 minutes.
Oh, for hand sanding?
Yeah, because I would have done a little section, little.
Oh, with the little blocks, but you
Yeah.
can do hand sanding with a full piece of sandpaper, and you could actually get that texture leveled with a few hand passes. It takes the right product and the right hand pad, but you can do this by hand.
You're referring to as loading all the little spots there?
This is loading, and if I continued to sand with this, I would be asking for that pigtail mark that we showed you in the classroom. So there's 2 ways to clean this with a towel. And my recommendation is a cotton towel, not a microfiber. Because the microfiber will clean this effectively, but it will also begin to strip away your abrasives on the disc. So cotton won't do that. So you've brushed away the load that's on the disc. As you can see, the stearate material is still there, so you haven't affected that. You can continue sanding without a problem. So that's one way. The other way is to blow it off. So another way is to blow it off. We showed the towel approach, but that cleans it off. A lot more efficient. So that is your texture leveling step. You could jump on this and compound the sanding mark out, but it would not be efficient sanding mark removal. You would have to work harder. So the next step is we're going to take this film disc off and switch to the foam disc technology. This is the 3000 grit. And the purpose is to refine the sanding mark to make it easier to buff out. Now just for fun, I'm going to switch orbits. And I'm going to go to a large 9mm orbit. And I'm going to use that same foam interface pad. And remember, as we talked about, the function of the foam interface pad is to take out that little bit of angling with the tool and level it out on the paint, which will prevent some of that edge cut. Now this approach, and most all foam disc products, regardless of brand, it's going to be used wet. So I'm not aware of any foam disc technology that you use dry. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I'm just not aware of it. Most everything, all the brands you can think of this technology, it's using water. And it's a couple of spritz of water there, a couple spritzes of water there. So it's not wet sanding, we call it damp sanding. To do this twice.
Double it up, right? Yeah.
Twice the number of passes or twice the amount of time.
And you're just letting the machine, you're not applying any pressure, you're just...
Very light, enough to plant the disc on the paint. That's about the right speed to use right there. And you see that white frothy material?
Yep.
That is actually clear coat that you're removing along with the sanding residue. You really want to work this disc in. The biggest mistake people make is they do not do this thoroughly enough, and you end up buffing out some of your remnant 1500 grit scratch still.
That you don't want to have to come back and sand again.
Yeah. So there, the sanding mark should look very different to you.
Yeah.
Sanding that, you can actually begin to see gloss. You can see a reflection of that light. It's even. There's not highs and lows. This is exactly what it should look like. And what we'll show here is it's not going to remove texture. I mean, we can be here all day sanding and it will not remove texture. But what it will go after is all those heavy scratches. So I'm going to interrupt the cycle just to show you something. So that's not the normal application, but I just wanted to show you. So you see the straight line scratches coming in and you can still see them there. Mm-hmm. So we haven't effectively removed them. I'm trying to partially remove them so you can see the difference. And there's still remnants of the straight line you can still see, but some of them are removed, right? Mm-hmm. And you should count passes and never go beyond like 10 passes with this technology. But you can see the straight lines are beginning to go away. All you see is a orbital sanding mark.
You can still see all the texture.
Yeah. Because I still see a couple of the real deep. There we go. So very different looks. Mm-hmm. Same 3000 grit on both sides, but you can see a very different look to it, and that's expected.
So that's 1500 followed with 3000.
Yes, and that's just 3000.
So you're going to compound this?
Yeah, so we're just taking our Bigfoot random orbital 15 millimeter, our microfiber cutting disc, Zephyr compound, which this is our normal go-to for a sanding mark. But this is still a less aggressive compounding step than if we were trying to hammer on these scratches.
Because you'd have to cycle it a lot longer, or make probably
more
two or
pressure,
three.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This must have been a prototype. It's not blue.
The blueness didn't come into our compounds until recently. This product's been out for 5 years. So we've got a good amount for priming. So again, I short cycled this just for the purpose of showing you something. So that was 2 passes. I went up and down twice. And you can see there's not a complete defect removal on the sanding mark, but we probably have half of it out right now.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So let's do a full cycle and see what happens. Middle is out, edges are not. A little bit more. Paint is a little on the medium to hard side, but I'm just going to go on the edges and get that remaining sanding mark. The edges of the sanding disc are always going to be more aggressive. So that took a good amount of passes, and due to the hardness of the paint. So another car, the sanding mark could have come out in half that amount of time, and then another car it could have taken twice as long. It just depends on paint hardness. So at my angle you can see the difference in texture from here to here.
Yep, definitely. I don't know if we'll be able to capture that on camera.
Texture difference. See the texture in the light right there? I'm gonna come over here.
Yeah, you can definitely see a difference.
Now we have some haze left over from microfiber on black, right? So then
Yeah.
we would come and finish that up with
Foam.
Foam in the yellow polish,
Yeah.
and take that rest of that haze out. In this case, you would definitely need that second step. Now, other paints, you may not need it. And I'm going to do matte what's called a step-down panel. So when I'm done, visually you'll see every step. So here's your sanding mark, here's your compound mark, and I'm only going to polish here so you'll see the finished result. Priming the pad a little bit.
You doing that finishing on speed 1?
Yeah, I'm a low speed guy. I'm on the low end of speed settings on most of my tools. So here you should definitely see a progression in finish quality. And then here's what we started with, this mess. So you can actually see the mess we started with here. Does that show up on the camera?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could show up on 20 feet away. And then we have our
sandy mark,
right,
our compound mark, and then a polished mark, which is a little bit of a defect left, tiny bit, but this would be wax ready for most people. You can refine that a little more with a couple more passes of that polish. But going from that to this.
right.
So on foam, you can prime on the fly like this.
You really
Rather than
here.
buttering
I'll
it.
show you. I'll show you the proper priming. So we'll go on speed setting 2 with the Mark II version of the tool. We're going to leave it in one place for 20 to 30 seconds, which on camera will seem like an eternity, but you leave it in one place, and what that does is it warms up the foam, warms up the compound, begins to spread it on the surface, and that's the priming step. It's kind of a light pressure. At some point you'll see the rotations kick in right there. You see that?
Yeah.
That means you're priming.
And then do you add more product, or you just roll with that?
You could roll, actually with this amount of area, I could
Yeah.
roll with this. Now I'm going to speed this up to 4. So that was 3 passes side to side, another 3 this way, and voila. See all these straight line scratches?
Mm-hmm.
If you follow them down, they disappear right about there.
Mm-hmm.
So all your scratches are gone. There's a little bit of a haze mark from the compound step. So this paint I would describe as haze prone. So, because no matter what we've done, it's generated a little bit of a haze. So this is a kind of paint that's just haze prone.
It's never going to be a one step.
Right, exactly. It's already telling you that, hey, I don't like one steps. So,
Yeah.
it has to do with the brittleness of the paint now, the elasticity. So this paint would be a little more brittle than other paints.
Which makes it more scratch prone.
Yeah. So here I'm watching for rotation, and my ideal speed for polishing is I do the lowest speed possible that maintains rotation. So this is on like 1.5 right now. But because we've already learned that this is haze-prone paint, I'm not going to overcycle it. I stopped it short at, what was that, 2 or 3 passes?
Yeah.
And we'll see where we're at. much improved. Yeah, much better.
Yep.
So your haze is gone, and that showed the entire process, Matt. So we went from those heavy scratches on top of scratches to no scratches, but we left the texture alone here. Here we see a step-down panel, nasty sanding mark, or nasty scratches from car washing, sanding mark, compound mark, and a finish polish.
All right, so let's check our paint depths, right? After our 3,000, nothing, 1,500, 3,000. Compound on top of that,
Polish.
and then finish on top of that.
So our defected virgin paint here, 4.9, 4.98, 5. So it's pretty consistent around that. So that's what we have on the defected level. So here we 3,000 foam disc sanded, polished. Let's see what we get here. 4.9, 4.9 again, 5.2, even taller on that spot, 4.9, so it's pretty consistently. So what this shows is that procedure we did, 3,000 grit sanding plus buffing and all that, we didn't remove paint.
Yeah.
We removed a microscopic level to remove defects. But other than that, we didn't cut too deep into the clear coat. So here is on our sanding mark, 5, 5, 5 again, 4.9. So even then, we're not showing a lot of paint removal here compared to there. Compounded, 4.9, 4.93. It's very consistent. 4.96, 4.8. So we were getting 4.9s and 5s in here. Very microscopic difference here. And we really shouldn't be seeing any difference on the polish.
Yeah.
4.9, 4.93, 4.94, 5.3. So basically, looking at these measurements, we did not impact the clear coat too deeply here.
So you would know if we were getting a 3.9, you know, that we did some serious.
Well, that would be pretty drastic. If I started in the 5 or 4.9 and 5.0 area here, if I started seeing 4.5, 4.3, then you really removed a lot of paint.
Yeah.
Now, what we don't have to compare with here is, well, what if we had taken a rotary, a wool pad, and a compound and hammered on those, then what would we see? So that's one thing we haven't compared to yet. But the main point of this measurement is to just demonstrate that these procedures we've just done are not.
Sanding is not, right, sanding is not as insanely aggressive as it's been chastised for, right?
Especially the way we did it here. I mean, the most aggressive grit size we used in this whole thing was 1,500.
Right.
If we had started with 1,000, we might have a different story here. But
well, because if we did 1,000, we'd have to follow with 1,500, right? And then, you know.
And step it down.
Yeah.
But we also did machine sanding, which, as we mentioned in the classroom earlier, machine sanding is less aggressive than hand sanding. So if we would have done 1,000 grit hand, we would have removed a lot more paint, which is counterintuitive. Most people think hand sanding would be less aggressive than machine.
So because of the inaccuracy of your human movement?
Well, this is not flat, and even with a hand pad, your downward pressure on the sandpaper is not consistent. So you have highs and lows in that sanding mark. So yeah, it's a case to be made based on what we've just shown for using technology instead of the hammer or the axe. Use refinement, refined technology to go after defects.
Right. So we have, aggressive compounding and sanding somewhere in between, rather than the opposite, which would be conventional wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Conventionally, we would say, well, sanding is here, then compounding, when it's a lot of times could be the opposite.
Depending on the abrasive technology, because it can be much more aggressive and sanding.
Certainly, right. If we grab some 80 grit, start grinding away at, with a 21.
All right, so let's finish this out.
This is your paint gauge that you use.
Yeah, so one bit of technique thing is when somebody wants to get more aggressive to get that last bit of defect out, I don't increase speed, I don't increase arm speed, I just do a slower pass with a little more pressure. So remember that haze we got? Ooh.
So explain to me water. How, when, how much, how do you know?
I got the slide for you.
Okay.
I'll give you the nerdy side of water. Oh man, see, I always polish with water. So there's two things I won't polish a car without: this belt and a spray bottle of water.
So the concept here, blow out the pad, get the residue out. We already have, this is a diminishing polish, right?
Nope.
These are non-diminishing? Okay, all right, then that answers that. I thought these were diminishing, so you were breaking down the polish.
No, I'm actually a fan of non-diminishing. So now look at the difference, see?
Yeah.
That extra pass did? I could actually keep refining this and get it better and better and better just by blowing that pad and spritzing on water.
And not adding more product?
No more product, yeah. All right.
That's the part that comes from lots of experience, right? Trial and error. Yeah.
All right.